Got a lot of stuff to go over here today on the program. A lot of action. The Combine is underway up in Indianapolis. Friday morning at 9 o'clock, players will get out on the field and start working out. And I don't know about you, but I'm a geek for this kind of stuff. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think they even go into Monday. I'll be watching. I'll be sitting there checking out guys running their 40s, running their shuttles, doing the drills that they do. I kind of get off watching all that stuff. So it'll be a good weekend. Anybody's a football fan that likes to dig into the minutia of football, the Combine is the perfect viewing for you, and that's what we're going to have all weekend long. And I'm sure we'll get a lot of information coming out of the Combine when it ends up early next week as to who did great, who didn't do so good, whose stock went up, whose stock went down. And to me, what happens on the field, really for the most part, is inconsequential for as far as I'm concerned. And I think for most of the scouts, most of the coaches and people I've spoken to, scouts a little bit different. You know, they're taking numbers and, you know, they're getting all these numbers down, trying to get everybody and figure out where they stack up. But I think when it comes to coaches, when they look at the Combine, it's more about, hey, let's interview these guys, and more importantly, let's get some medical background on where they're at. Do they have any injuries? Do they have anything that may be a problem going down the road? And God knows we've only had plenty of those situations here with the Miami Dolphins. Hopefully we can avoid that this year. But those are the important things when it comes to coaches, is try to get the guys in the room by themselves, understand who they are a little bit, get the doctors to do the once-over on them, find out exactly what's going on with them and any concerns they may have going forward. And then on the field stuff, look, players do what they do in game situations. You can go out on the football field, and a lot of these guys, in fact, the vast majority of these guys, have probably spent the last 2 months in Florida, in Arizona, some other places across the country, LA, where you've got these places where you go to, get with these trainers, and basically they teach you how to improve your production at the Combine, whether it's shaving a tenth off your 40-yard dash time, getting a quicker start, whether it's cutting your corners a little bit sharper when you're doing the 3-cone drill. All those things are fine-tuned for these guys, which is what I don't like about the Combine. If it was me running the Combine, it would be, hey, when you show up, then you'll find out what drills you're going to run. When I tell you, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go 10 yards. I want you to backpedal at a 45-degree angle off of that. And I want you, when you get when you get 10 yards deep, I want you to make a direct right turn and take off as fast as you can to the designated line there, and see how guys, A, can they react to the directions? Can they respond to what their chore is to do? And then you see them in a true time where they haven't trained for it, they haven't worked on it, just the way that you would expect to see guys in that type of situation. So here's my thoughts on the Combine. Got a lot of stuff happening in the National Football League. You got free agents being tendered with the franchise tags, all those things, players being cut. We've got a list here. We'll go over all that. I want to remind you are watching the Audible presented by our good friends at Aquafina. If you're watching us on Periscope right now, you can go ahead and send your questions in throughout the program. I'll get to as many as I can. Just at the very bottom line there on the message, go ahead and send your questions in. We'll try to filter it. We're working on a skeleton crew in here. It's Leon in the back and Squatch, and that's it. Everyone else has either gone to the Combine or we've got some people up with the Dolphins. 17 players from the Dolphins paid their way to go to New York, paid for all their expenses. One of the reasons they paid for all their expenses, if it's not, it's a salary cap. It counts against the salary cap for the football team, and it may be an infraction by the Dolphins. However, if they pay their own way, they can go up there. But they're spending a week with Stephen Ross, with other CEOs, other business owners in the New York area, trying to get a grasp of what they want to do after their career is over, giving them some insight into the businesses that Mr. Ross is involved in and his other associates are involved in, and giving them the opportunities to dig in a little bit, to try to find out if there's some interest there for them, and to begin the process of preparing yourself once you get out of football. Because I can tell you this from firsthand opinion of doing it and watching guys do it and watching guys that don't do it. If you wait until you're done with football, if you wait until you're cut, if you wait until your career's over, it's too late. You got to get started now, and that's exactly what those guys are doing up in New York with Mr. Ross. So I applaud them for going up. Certainly applaud Mr. Ross for giving them the opportunity to spend time with some of the great business people in our country. So we'll get to all that stuff as we move along and get things going. As I said, you're watching us on Periscope. You can watch us tomorrow on a rebroadcast on the Miami Dolphins Facebook page. Probably get in the morning, that'll roll out there. And you can also watch us a little later today on MiamiDolphins.com. So you can catch us on any one of those. You can also see the archives of the Audible on the Miami Dolphins YouTube. What is it? YouTube channel, right? YouTube channel is what they call it on YouTube. But I'm sure if you know YouTube, I'm sure you know that. I don't, because I'm a neophyte when it comes to all that stuff. So we're just going to go on and get to some of the questions here. Let me run through some of the moves that were made or have been made so far. Pittsburgh Steelers re-signed 3 of their players. James Harrison re-signed a 2-year contract. This guy got to be 36 years old, right? James Harrison, I mean, he's somewhere up there, but playing very, very high level. Dolphins saw it up there in Pittsburgh when they played against him. This guy, as much miles as he's got on his body, smallish guy in height, thick, but boy, I tell you what, this guy makes plays. He goes 100%, and he's still got some football, so he signed for 2 more years. San Francisco 49ers signed Carl Bradford. 49ers also signed Mike Purcell. Now, here we go going into some of the other transactions. Cleveland Browns signed punter Britton Colquitt. The Kansas City Chiefs cut running back Jamal Charles. He's out as a free agent right now. Then I'll tell you what, that running back, you talk about a dangerous position in the National Football League, not only from an injury standpoint, but from a standpoint of your career longevity is certainly tested when you're a running back in the National Football League. 2 years ago, Jamal Charles was he was a guy everybody wanted. He was a running back de jour for the National Football League, and here he is released by the Kansas City Chiefs. Eric Berry signed a 6-year contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, so he got the long-term deal he was looking for after being franchised last year, and here's a guy that really has laid his heart and soul out for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's one of the guys I had on my list if he was going to be a free agent, an unrestricted free agent out there, that, boy, you'd have to at least kind of kick the tires out a little bit and see what he's all about, see what it's going to cost you to get a guy like Eric Berry, because a high-quality individual, high-quality player, and a guy that is just going to be a huge, huge leader on your football team. Anyway, signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. A little disappointed to see that. Good for Eric Berry, though. Also signed by the Kansas City Chiefs, guard Laurent Tardif. He signs a 5-year extension. Franchise tag for Trumaine Johnson, the cornerback of the Los Angeles Rams, so he'll stay with the Rams. Franchise tag from the New York Giants, Jason Pierre-Paul, the defensive lineman who was a franchise guy last year, franchise guy this year, and I know he was looking for a long-term deal. Darrelle Revis, New York Jets, cut. He's out there on the free agent market. Washington Redskins, Kirk Cousins, quarterback, franchise, his 2nd straight year being franchised. Arizona Cardinals franchise Chandler Jones. So he's going to be there under a big contract. You know, the franchise to me is a good and a bad thing. Good because you're going to get a bundle of money. I think you get paid the average of the highest 3 players at your position in the National Football League. I believe that's the way it is. It's something along that kind of a formula. So you're going to get good money. What you're not going to get is a long-term contract and the ability to know that you're going to be there or that you're going to have some kind of injury protection if you get hurt and there's long-term rehabilitation for your injury. So that certainly is a concern if you're a franchise tag guy. The Cardinals re-signed Jeremy Ross to a 1-year deal. Gabe Martin, a couple other guys out there. Kawan Short was franchised for the Carolina Panthers. Cleveland Browns cut Andre Hawkins. Where we have franchise, Los Angeles Chargers, Melvin Ingram. Melvin Ingram was a guy that we talked about a lot on this program as a potential free agent for the Miami Dolphins. Excuse me. A multi-talented linebacker out of the Los Angeles Chargers. I got to get the Los Angeles Chargers in there. So he's off the board right now. Would have been a nice guy to take a look at. Avery Young cut by the Saints. Pittsburgh Steelers, Le'Veon Bell, the running back. He's franchised for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers also signed Antonio Brown to a 5-year extension. Now the extension is for 4 years, $68 million, $19 million signing bonus. Woo, man, it must be nice to be Antonio Brown on this day. No question about it. Jets cut Nick Mangold to center. This guy's been the mainstay of that offensive line for the New York Jets for the last decade. He's out there. Makes you wonder with Mike Pouncey, injuries to Mike Pouncey, if a guy like Nick Mangold, if you can get him in there at a reasonable price, might not be a guy you look at for depth on the offensive line, in particular at that center position. San Francisco 49ers. Earl Mitchell, who the Dolphins released not so long ago, signed by the San Francisco 49ers. He got a 4-year contract, got a lot of money. I want to say he got $16 million, somewhere around there, maybe a little more. I don't know, but Earl Mitchell got himself a nice deal with the 49ers out there. Denver Broncos signed Bobby Richardson. C.J. Spiller was signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. He was earlier released by the New York Jets. San Francisco, DeAndre Carter signed from the Patriots, signed a 2-year deal with the 49ers. 49ers trying to restructure that team, trying to rebuild that team any way possible. That is a team, you talk about a team in disarray. They went from not so many years ago playing in Super Bowls, NFC Championship games, being in every big game in the of the season, and now they are a struggling franchise. Where else we have? Bobby Richardson, Denver Broncos signed from the Chiefs. C.J. Spiller, I got there. I already got through all that stuff. Detroit Lions. No, these are inconsequential, so I'm going to pass on those guys. Where else we go? Paul Soliai, former Dolphin defensive tackle, cut by the Carolina Panthers. Mike Tolbert, cut by the Panthers. Jared Odrick, we knew that, cut by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's out there as a free agent, and there was some word out there that Jared Odrick had gone up and had visited the New England Patriots, went for a workout, probably got his physical taken care of, didn't sign him, but certainly you look at it and they're interested in him, no question about that. Johnny Manziel's out there. Teams are interested in Johnny football. This guy's got to clean up his life. He's got a lot of things to clean up, much like our Deion Jordan. Here's a guy that really had great opportunity and squandered a lot over the last couple of years because he couldn't keep his life in order. See what happens. I don't know if there's going to be much football in Johnny Manziel if and whoever he gets signed by anybody, if indeed that is the case. So that's it as far as transactions. Need a little break for a little of this Aquafina water. Kind of cools my throat down a little bit. Lets me keep going. All right, let's go ahead and give some questions here. You're watching the Audible here. If you're watching us on Periscope. If you want to send your questions in just at the bottom of your Periscope page, just message us there. You can watch us beginning tomorrow on the Miami Dolphins Facebook page on a rebroadcast. And probably in a couple hours, you can watch us on the MiamiDolphins.com. Is that right, Leon? Am I right or am I wrong? There you go. Nathan and Megan's mom gets started off. Always right out of the box. If Kenny doesn't re-sign, who can be our third wide receiver? Well, I think if you're looking at that situation, you probably have to go out and look somewhere else. We've talked a lot. Joe comes on. We've talked about Leonte Carew, the guy from Rutgers that the Dolphins moved up to pick last year with, I believe, the third round pick, second or third round. I want to say it was a third round pick, moved up to get Leonte Carew. He's a guy that needs to elevate his game with or without Kenny Stills on this roster. Leonte Carew needs to become more of a playmaker. He needs to become somebody that this team can rely on. Not saying that he would be that guy that would be the third guy, but look, there's some receivers out there. There's some receivers available out there that the Dolphins will look in to sign if indeed that Kenny Stills doesn't re-sign. And I tell you what, it seems like every day that goes by, the more I hear Kenny Stills, the more I hear about this and that, boy, the more and more difficult I believe it is going to be for the Dolphins to sign him because he's going to get some big money. And Antonio Brown's contract certainly is going to be something that they're going to look at, that Kenny Stills guys are going to look at. I'm not saying that Kenny Stills is Antonio Brown, but he's a wide receiver. He's an unrestricted free agent. He was productive last year. And so who knows? So where was what I say? What was Antonio Brown? $68 million? Is that what he got for the 4-year extension? A lot of money. And I don't think the Dolphins are going to be willing to pay anywhere near that for Kenny Stills. But, hey, we'll see. At Bull 66, you see Deshaun Jackson as an option to replace Kenny Stills. I think any of those receivers that are out there, that are available, that are free agents, that aren't going to come with a huge price tag, that still have a little play in them, then, yeah, I think they all become options for Kenny Stills. It's funny, isn't it, how at the end of the season, right after the season, you really felt like Kenny Stills was a slam dunk to come back to the Miami Dolphins. He wanted to be here. Adam Gase wanted him here. The offensive coordinator wanted him here. Everybody wanted him here. Kenny wanted to be here. But in this free agent market, as the salary cap goes up, and where did I see the salary cap? Did it go up 167? Is the salary cap per team $167 million? I think I saw that today as a number for free agency and how much each team has under their not free agency, but how much each team has for their salary cap. So there's a lot of money out there. At I Got Game, New Jersey, Bo, should we go after linebacker Dante Hightower? I'm all for it, man. I'm all for, if you're going to go out and you're going to get a free agent and you're going to spend money, Dante Hightower, no way that he comes cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Dante Hightower comes in, though, he gives you an instant starter, an instant leader, an instant impact player at a position that's of dire need for this football team. They're talking about Koamisi. I'm one of those guys that expected Koamisi to be released after another injury-plagued season last year, neck injury. Now his people are saying that he'll be ready to go by May 1st. And will be healthy for the season. The Dolphins haven't done anything with Koamisi, mainly because, I believe they want to see what's in the combine, see what's in college, what's out there from a draft potential in college. But they also want to see the free agents that are out there and what they can do. Now, if they make a move with a free agent, you can bet soon after that Koamisi will probably be a guy that's let go because of that. But as of now, as far as the way I see it, Koamisi still in the plans for the Miami Dolphins until someone comes in to take their place. If, as I said, the Dolphins. But Dante Hightower to me, high-priced guy, as I said, can come in and start right away, can be an impact player right away, can be a game changer right away, and more, maybe I'm not going to say more importantly, but certainly a caveat. Let's put it that way. You take a guy from the New England Patriots, put him on your team that makes you a better football team and takes away from their defense. I think that would be a great move by the Dolphins if the dollars are something that they can swallow and keep their roster the way they want to keep it. At Tony Day, 170. I wonder what's with the numbers here. 17315. Is there something? Is that a zip code or something there, or what is that, Leon? How do you say it? Tony Day was 17315, 17315, 17315, 17315, 7315, whatever way. What names do you suggest we can keep an eye on as prospective future Dolphins in the combine? Let me go through some of my draft people here. Reuben Foster. Look, here's the one thing I know. You look at the draft eligible players out there and the guys that are coming out. A lot of cornerbacks, a lot of depth in cornerback at this draft. I think there are 15 quality cornerbacks in the top 100 players coming into this draft this year. Certainly, that's somewhere you look at. Also, I think in the linebacker position, Reuben Foster, the guy that everybody expects to be the guy that goes out is the top linebacker pick, the kid out of Alabama. He's going to be gone well before the Dolphins have that pick. Jabril Peppers, who knows, could drop to 22, could be around there. Strong safety from Michigan. O.J. Howard, I think he kind of falls off the Dolphins' radar only because they went out and they made the signing and got Julius Thomas to come in and fill that need at the tight end position. So I would be surprised if they went after another tight end. I'm looking for the gosh darn it, I can't believe I can't remember the linebacker from Vanderbilt. Very well thought of linebacker from Vanderbilt. Zach Cunningham, there you go. Zach Cunningham is a guy that really intrigues me from that linebacker spot, a guy that can play multiple positions, an impact guy. So I would look that way. But it's kind of picking out players for the draft. For me, I'm not a draft Nick. I'm not a guy that does all that stuff. But it's kind of like picking a needle in the haystack. I know this. This is what the Dolphins need. They need linebacker, linebacker, linebacker. They need a defensive end, maybe two. They need a defensive tackle to fill out the rotation, and they need to find some help on the offensive line. Two guards, depending on what they do with Jamon Bushrod. Right now, he's still here. If he leaves, if the Dolphins let him go, then they need two offensive linemen, 2 guards to find, whether it's through the draft or through free agency. Those are the needs. So if you look at the needs and know that's exactly what they need in those positions, look at your draft list, look at your draft list, look at the guys that are around there and see, and you'll get a pretty good idea of who falls in your lap at that point. Leon E. Big. Is that you, Leon? Is that you, Big Leon? Who do you see us focusing on most in Indy? Linebackers, defensive ends, offensive guards, or defensive backs? I would say linebackers, no doubt about it. Defensive ends, offensive linemen, probably DBs, not as much as those other positions. What do you know? Mike Cugno.
What's going on, Bo?
Well, you just got that's all right. That's all right. That South Florida traffic gets everybody.
Brutal.
You're trying to come from Miami up to Broward County.
It's not good.
A little rough.
Not good. One flat tire and all of a sudden the whole city shuts down.
That's it. Well, thanks for being with us. Mike Cugno is the anchor reporter for CBS 4 Miami, sports anchor, sports reporter for CBS Miami. You're producer. You do everything over there.
I shoot. I edit.
You do everything. You're a one-man band out there. You can do it all.
I'm a human switch. What's it called? Swiss Army knife.
You're a Swiss Army knife. That's exactly it. A man of many trades. Hey, we're talking about obviously we're talking about draft, and you're a guy that you keep a pretty close eye on the draft.
Yeah, I do.
You're a fantasy guy.
Love fantasy.
Right?
Yeah, love fantasy. And you know, talking about the draft, I love the move they did last week with trading for Julius Thomas, getting a tight end. Because everyone was talking about, we might try for O.J. Howard or David Njoku. Right. I think for Hurricane fans, that was a little exciting. Maybe you'll get David Njoku, get to see him kind of mature. But I think you had bigger needs in the draft.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So I was glad. And it was like, it reminded me of a similar move last year, getting Kiko and Byron, where you used a draft pick to drop back. Yeah. But you addressed 2 starting positions, and I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I would have been. I don't want to say I'd have been disappointed, but I would have been a little concerned had the Dolphins gone in the draft and used their first pick on a tight end, and either one of those guys. Look, not that it's not an area of need, but like you said, certainly more pressing needs at linebacker, much more pressing at linebacker, much more pressing at offensive guard, defensive end, defensive tackle, and look, as far as I'm concerned, as many defensive backs that you can bring in, quarterbacks and safeties.
You can't have enough
bring
of those
as
guys.
many into training camp as you can find. Bring them in, and hopefully you find some diamonds in the rough there.
You do. You find some Tony Lippett. I mean, a couple of interceptions this year
guys
towards
like
the
Spencer
end.
Paysinger, Mike Hall, all these guys. I mean, that you've seen, that you saw, Anthony Steen, Keith Urbick, those guys that you saw play this year. No one knew who these guys were at the beginning of the season, and you bring them in. And look, one of the things I think about this football team and this coaching staff from this year that I haven't seen in a long time, I saw players like Lippett and Paysinger and Neville Hewitt and guys like that get better as the season went on. The more snaps they got, the better they got. And I think that's, first of all, their ability to get better.
Absolutely.
But also the assistant coaches. I think you got to give them a lot of credit for the job that they did.
That's
continuing to work on those guys, continuing to make them better so that when they got the opportunity to step in and play in the games, they became effective players.
And it's got to feel good as a player. You're a young guy, and a coach puts that trust in you. So you go out there and you want to perform well, and you want to perform at a high level. And that's what these guys did. It was a shame they didn't have Xavier Howard out there all year, but now you're going to have him, Lippett, Byron Maxwell. You got a couple more guys out there.
I've said this time and time again in the program. Tony Lippett, to have him play as many plays, as many meaningful plays as he played last year, is only going to make him a better player coming in. So he starts, instead of being here where he was last year, he starts here with a chance to really take off from there. And so really good stuff going on up there.
And he played well in big games. I mean, look, down the stretch, like, I know it was just the Jets, but those were games you needed to win. You know, so and he came up big. So
big situations. So we're just going through some questions here, Mike.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and keep going. To King Edlin, am I the only fan feeling some type of way letting Stills go? Without him, we don't go 10-6. Well, I don't think there's any question. Without him this year, you don't go 10-6.
Subtract 9 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, whatever
exactly.
it is.
You take away the production that he had. And look, I don't want him to go. I think that, look, the Dolphins, I think, sorely want him to stay.
Yeah.
I know everyone in that wide receiver room wants him to stay. I think most of the fans want him to stay. I think Kenny wants to stay.
Right.
But, you become an unrestricted free agent. He's only getting this one opportunity to make big money.
Yeah,
so it's either you do it now or you don't. So it's hard to, it's hard to be against him going out and testing the free agent waters and seeing what's out there. You're not doing yourself. No, you're not doing yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice
if you don't do that. Right. Because you have to obviously take care of yourself and stuff. And it'd be hard to part ways with him. Yeah. And obviously he was had such a big role in the offense this year, but. Yeah, I think that's a lot of money.
A lot of, well,
12 million,
Antonio Brown, $68 million.
I know, but
for a 4-year extension.
He's not Antonio.
No, he's not
Brown.
Antonio Brown, but it does set it sets a number for that position.
They're setting the bar.
Out there. It doesn't matter what your production was. Right. If people look at you that you're going to be a number one guy for them, there's a number one guy there. Yeah. Well, had I played more plays, had I been the number one guy, maybe I'd have caught 98 passes.
Right.
You know, I mean, those are the arguments you can make as a free agent out there.
But I think what maybe works in Stills against Stills in this situation is people just see him as the flyer, the guy.
Yeah, they do.
The guy on the go right now. I mean, his yards per catch, are great. Yeah. I think I'm not sure what numbers he had catch wise. I think it was in the 40s. Yeah. I think you would like to see that number be a little higher if you're going to give him that much money.
But I think if you look deeper at Kenny Stills. And you look deeper at those.
No doubt. What he does. I mean, he does. Right.
Blocking for your running game. Blocking for other receivers. Right. You know, if you're running a clearing route, run the route like you mean it.
Right.
Take people with you when you go.
He extends the offense.
All the little things, all the little nuances. Kenny Stills did very well for this football team. And look, between Kenny, between Jarvis, between Devontae, who am I missing in the group?
Carew.
But between those guys there, they all did what they could to make the other guy better.
Right.
And when you have a guy like that, you don't want to let him go.
No, you don't. And I think that is part of the reason why people have a hard time letting him go, because they know he does more than just run the fly pattern and go catch a deep ball.
No doubt about it. Justin Ovation. Is Holly coming back in the show sometime, or did Leon and Trey scare her away for good? Well, I think they scared her away.
What's the matter with this?
Huh?
What's the matter with this?
Well, we had Holly, the English cheerleader, the cheerleader from
England.
From England,
yeah. I can't compete with that.
Yeah, no. She had a nice little accent. She had a British accent. She wasn't quite as big as you sitting in that chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She didn't have to shave. All that kind of stuff.
I avoided shaving. I try not to look like a 12-year-old as often as I can.
And I found out on the show she speaks Spanish with an English accent.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
How did it sound?
I don't know. How would I know?
Can you do it?
I know. First of all, I can't speak Spanish. And all right, it fins up one. Well, how do you feel about Dontari Poe? 33, but would dominate with. So I would love. I mean, you look all these guys. There's a lot of guys out there. I mean, we talked about Dante Hightower a little bit before. You'd love to have Dante Hightower. Eric Berry was the guy was high on my wish list. He is franchised in Kansas City, but you take Devontae, you take Dante Hightower, you take a guy like Eric Berry, you take some of these other free agents, Dontari Poe. It all comes down to, hey, you love him,
but you got to be able to pay him.
Does he want?
Right.
How much? Look, the Dolphins have said it time and time again this year. We're going to keep our own. Yeah. We're going to do what we can to keep our own guys as well as we can, and that doesn't mean going out and breaking the bank on guys that are coming in. Yeah. That quite frankly, you don't know what you're going to get out of them.
No, you don't, because you and I don't want to say people chase paydays, but like once they get that payday, then what are you getting? And I think that's, and we just talked about it, I think going back to Kenny Stills, maybe if you can get him to sign for a little less, maybe you can spend some money on these high priced defense free agents.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's fun to like work and play GM. And
I've talked to GMs, I've talked to coaches, I've talked to scouts. And I've seen it firsthand. The problem with free agents is you never know when you put that kind of money in that guy's pocket
what's going to happen.
Whether he's going to put it neutral. Hey, man, I got my bank. Yeah, I got my bank. I'm set for the rest of my life. I'm gonna put it neutral. Maybe not work as hard as I did before. It's all and then you get a guy that's not the guy you paid for. And that's to me, that's the toughest thing when it comes to signing free agents. Is the guy you're paying for going to be the guy you get when he shows up here with a big fat bank account?
And it's a giant risk because you don't know them personally. So you don't know what kind of person they are, what kind of player they really are. You see the production on the field week in and week out, but is that going to happen?
It's funny. I was just reading an article yesterday where the Jets are talking about letting Brandon Marshall go.
Yeah.
His numbers went down, dramatically this year, and probably over the last decade, maybe the best, certainly one of the top 5
guys,
receivers in the National Football League. He's been on 3 different teams, and he's always been the best receiver on the team, and he's always been one of the best receivers in the league. But every time he leaves, they don't miss him.
No,
they don't care about it. Oh, they're fine. Geez, they're better off without him. So you can go. We did it. We went and paid for him and got him, and then within a year, you're like, get this guy out of here.
And then he leaves, and you're able to rebound. Yeah. But I think in certain situations,
well, look, he goes to Chicago, and creates waves there.
He does.
New York, believe me, he creates problems. I watched him in the second half when the Dolphins were up in New York, just basically quit, and stop playing in the game.
That's it, and that's the thing.
Right.
That's the thing, and it also goes with the season, because if Brandon Marshall is the type of guy where 10 wins in, they're looking at a playoff. Yeah. He's all in.
He's all in.
But once things start to shift, and that's what you got to be worried about. You don't want to pay these guys, and once things get rough, I mean, look at with the Dolphins this year after the slow start. Do you want to pay someone who just throws in the bag, throws in a tank once things get rough? And Dolphins turned it around.
Nope. At I Got Game, New Jersey. Don't be surprised when we pick offensive guard Forrest Lamp. He's a kid from where's he? Western Michigan or one of those. Yeah. One of the small schools. Forrest Lamp. I don't know if I can. Western Kentucky.
It's an area of need.
Yeah.
No doubt. I mean,
he's supposed to be a very athletic guy. He's supposed to be a guard that's not. I see guards that you're either a lump, or you're a guy that can move. And I think he's an athletic guy. This projected to be in that late first round type of position. I don't know if the Dolphins fan base for what would be with a 4th year in a row or whatever it is, picking another offensive lineman.
Well, you can't.
I'm all for it. I don't have a problem with that.
Listen, anything that keeps it's huge. Anything that keeps Tannehill, whoever's back there, standing straight up. I mean, you got to take it. And if you can, and think about it. I mean, if you had if you picked an offensive guard in the first round this year, you have Tunsil, you have Pouncey, and you have Jawan James. You hope to see him improve after kind of a down year this year. But now you're talking about another 4 first-round picks sitting on the line, and you can't. You can go wrong with that. The player's a bust, but you can't go wrong with it.
I wouldn't be disappointed with it.
No.
I would be concerned from the standpoint that, boy, there's so much need on the other side of the football. So much need on the defensive side of the football that, okay, great, you got an offensive guard that you can plug in. Because if you take him, you're plugging him in, he's playing day one. There's no question about that.
And you could find, I think you can find guards in free agency. Look what happened with Bushrod this year.
Well, we haven't had much luck in picking guards.
No.
I go back to Eddie Earthquake Blake, and I think that was the beginning of the downward spiral here for offensive guards. But look how tough it's been for them to find guards. And you had to get a first-round pick that was a left tackle, move him to guard, and get another guy that was a left tackle and make him a right guard in order to solidify your positions there.
And then when you did have a guy who may have been a pretty decent guard, you got injured at center and had to move Steen over. So that's a chess match in itself, that line.
Periscope question. What do you think about Jared Davis, the linebacker from Florida? Long, lean guy that can run and all over the field.
All for it. I mean, look, it's to me, along with corners, you can't have enough corners.
Yeah.
And same thing on the defensive line, because you just want those guys coming in waves. Yeah. But you need to strengthen up that linebacking core. And so whether it's him or excuse me, I'm getting the name. Reuben Foster.
Reuben Foster, the kid from Vanderbilt. What's the name again? Leon, give me that name again. From the kid from Zach Cunningham from Vanderbilt. Those to me, a guy like Davis, Cunningham, those guys are probably more likely to be down there because Reuben, he's going to be gone. He's going to be gone.
Right.
Well, but I'm all for it.
Hey, I'm dreaming. We didn't think Tunsil would follow us.
No. Hey, well, you never know what. Never know what's on video on any of these guys.
Right. Draft night's always fun.
Yeah. Trent Arnold. When do you think Landry and Jones deals get done now that the market is reset? That's a good question. Jarvis Landry, certainly the Dolphins want to re-sign him to a long-term deal.
Do you wait?
Rashad Jones. I don't know when the timing is for that. I don't know if you go through free agency, make your decisions on who you're going to sign, and then go with those guys, or you get them under the,
If you had to right now, if you had to pay one of those guys and just lock in their deal between those two, to me it's
Jarvis.
Rashad. Oh, you go Jarvis?
I would go Jarvis, yeah.
Man,
Rashad's got another year left in his contract.
So doesn't Landry? He's got this.
Well,
he's got
another year
right,
too.
But if they were gonna work something out this year,
look, you're splitting hairs now.
Right.
I mean, you talk about Rashad Jones or Jarvis Landry.
Yeah.
To me, you're splitting hairs, but Jarvis to me is the engine that gets that offense going.
It is. He's the toughness. He's the tone setter.
And he's the guy that I watched Devontae Parker go from what I thought was a soft player that you kept going, man, you need to learn to play in the National Football League. You need to grow your big size, you need to put your big boy pants on and play in this league. And I think it took it a while, but I think late in the season I saw him kind of trying to run guys over, trying to push guys, getting physical with guys, all as a direct result of playing with Jarvis Landry. So I think the value for Jarvis Landry, but I would say 1 and 1A.
1A.
Now I can tell you this, if the first day of free agency Kenny still signs a huge contract somewhere or comes up, agrees to a contract, 2 days later, Jarvis Landry's going to be under contract.
Yeah, because he's definitely going to be like, if he's getting that money, why does
and I know, Rashad Jones, I think everyone knows he's going to get his deal done.
Yeah.
So I think you can kind of push him aside a little bit. I'm not talking about until next year, but you can certainly push it aside until you kind of get your ducks in a row where you know where you want to be. Light on the Dome. Hey, guys, do you like the fact that Julius Thomas' contract is incentive-based? Look, they're not paying a whole lot for this guy.
No, but sometimes that's just how it has to work. I mean, I know I get injuries, but your production from what you did in Denver to what you did in Jacksonville was completely different.
Here's what I like about Julius Thomas. Adam Gase coached with him for 2 years in Denver.
Right.
He had his most productive year, 24 touchdowns in 2 years in Denver. I think 100 and something passes in those 2 years, but 24 touchdowns those 2 years. And I know talking to Adam during the season, he said, when it comes to free agency, I want guys that I know.
Yeah.
Guys that I coached, or if I didn't coach them, I want a guy that I've got a friend of mine that I trust that coached him that's going to tell me exactly what this guy is all about. He knows what Julius Thomas is all about.
Even more reason why you look at that trade and go, this was a no-brainer.
And Julius Thomas, he wasn't asking for a whole. He's give me sign, get me in there, give me some incentives. I'll work it out there.
Right.
Which to me tells me a lot that how much he wanted to be here. And so as far as the incentives and money, to me, it's more about if you're willing to sign that, then you're committed to coming here and being productive.
Right, because there's another example of a guy, not to say that he didn't try in Jacksonville, but maybe chased the dollars and ended up in Jacksonville. And then
Jacksonville's a horrible place to be.
But then you forget the value and how good winning feels.
Yes.
Like no matter how much money you're making, winning at the end of the day is still.
I couldn't imagine playing. You imagine playing in. I always said this, Jacksonville, and I said it when they drafted the kid Blackman, the kid from
Justin Blackman from Oklahoma State.
I remember doing the draft. They drafted. And I said, well, that's the last you'll ever hear from him.
Yeah.
I mean, you go up to Jacksonville.
Right.
I know guys that have played 10 years of football in Jacksonville, and you go out with them, and they recognize me as a football player before they do them.
Right.
And these guys haven't played that long ago because no one watches Jacksonville. People in Jacksonville don't even watch Jacksonville. They don't even watch Jacksonville. They watch Tampa. So.
Oh man, I went to school up in Florida State, so I was kind of in between Tampa and Jacksonville. It was Dolphins or Bucks.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Jacksonville is just they're
very few Jags fans.
No. I guess if you're in that part of Georgia, that other part of that East Georgia, you're
just cross state lines.
Cross state lines. That's it. That's it, Mike.
That's
it. Could make it for sure.
Let's extend. Can we extend it 15 minutes?
We're already like we're 10 minutes. We went 40 minutes today on the program.
Oh, well, thanks for staying a little longer.
Let me ask this. So what's going on at Channel 4? How are things going over there for you?
Everything's good. Everything's good. Yeah, it's football season. Things kind of slow down, but all of a sudden you're like, whoa, we've got a bunch of other projects.
The football season is a little different animal over there, huh?
It is. It's like an all hands on deck. But now, like after football season, you get to work on different projects. Do a little bit different storytelling. We're not so.
You've been there now for what, 4 years?
2 and a half. 2 and a half. Yeah. So no, it's good. Everything's good. It's fun with Marlins getting back into it. The Heat and the Panthers all of a sudden turn their seasons around. So we're hoping for a playoff race there because there's nothing better in April and May than having to do Monday night at the Panthers Arena and Tuesday night at the Heat Arena. It's a lot of fun. So
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Did you watch the president last night?
I did watch. I flipped over from the Panthers game to
good,
watch,
bad, indifferent. What?
To watch the president. You know what? He's the president. You got it. When the president,
he's a lot more presidential than we've ever seen him before.
I'll give you that. But when the president speaks, it's good for no matter which side you're on to pay attention.
Yeah, no, it was must-see TV last night. Yeah. Whatever side you lean on, whatever you believe in, that's your business. But it was definitely good TV. All right, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Buddy. We'll get you another time when you can be there for a half hour.
Yeah. Well,
hey, Leon, you mind? Hey, Leon. Wait, Leon, mind we stay on another 20 minutes?
I don't got nowhere to be.
No, gotta go. We gotta go. We'll see you Wednesday on the Audible. Appreciate you jumping in. Appreciate Aquafina for sponsoring us here, and appreciate Mike Cugno for stopping by. We'll have him again a little bit later on and get a little more extended time with him. We'll see you next time.